Are tier lists actually helpful? Yes. Also, no. Hey y'all, J-Town here. Today's just a discussion of a topic that really needs addressed, and I feel like it's important, especially when you're looking at your account trying to figure out what's good, what's not. And that question is, are tier lists helpful? And the answer is both yes and no, right? Before we jump into the details, I need you guys to hit subscribe down there to really help the channel grow. And I'm a big believer in giving credit where credit is due. In the description, I will have the links to all the videos and tier lists that I'm using in this video, so you can go check those out. You gotta give love to get love, so make sure you check out those content creators as well, as I'm not taking credit for any of their work. It's just a discussion about the tier lists. All right? Well, as soon as somebody creates an account or joins the Discord, the first thing you do is do their summons and say, is this person good? Tier list! Give me tier list! And they want somebody else to tell them if what they pulled is amazing or not, or even reading their skills a lot of the times. Well, the first one I have to show you here is Karzak's tier list that he's made with collaboration of a few other people that I'm not familiar if those other folks have YouTube channels, but I will link his below. And you can see where those heroes are ranked. And overall, it's really good, right? The different heroes, pretty much for the most part, I agree with. But if you're looking at this as your sole guide as to whether or not you should build that champion or whether you pulled something good or not, that's not a good assessment based on your account. Tier lists are assuming that each hero is in a vacuum, because some of these heroes alone are a carry and very powerful, and some of them are just a good asset to a team, but by themselves would be a bit lackluster. Step back just a few days earlier, and we have the legendary tier list made by I Troll You, and it's got a pretty similar representation, a little bit different, but overall, got the right vibe going to it, right? But this also doesn't tell you what kind of use those heroes are, or what combination of these heroes you may have in your account, which changes things drastically. And in addition to his legendary tier list, he made an epic tier list, which overall, look, it's a pretty good analysis, I think. But again, it doesn't tell you what they are, what they do, how they are when it paired with each other, because things change. This is just a generalized guide. It's like, oh, I pulled one down here in the B tier, they must be trash. Well, not necessarily, because honestly, based on this list right here, there's a hero in this B tier that I would never get rid of off my account. Now let's look at a little bit different style. One of the earlier tier lists Elio made, and then CVMG went through and kind of did some more organization to it, and it's a little bit more involved with spreading them out into their categories and then ranking them by multiple different things, where they're good at PvE, good at PvP, they're good here, there, everywhere, which is another level of tier sorting, which I think is useful information. So is it great? Yes. Should you live and die by it? Should you judge your account harshly by this? No. And then on a similar note, more recent, you have Barry's tier list that he made in a similar fashion where he ranks them by categories, PvE, PvP, yada yada. You can see they have different ranks for the different parts, right? And it's a longer list, a different format, but still similar information. Now, please do not get it twisted. I am not criticizing any of these content creators or the tier lists that they've made. I appreciate all the work that every one of them put into the tier lists. I personally don't make a tier list because I don't subscribe to them that much, but it can be helpful, but it should just be a generalized guide, not a Bible, okay? And again, below I will have all the links to all of these videos and tier lists that I have found and shown on this video. All of these tier lists are somewhat similar, but you can see they're different. Some of the heroes move up and down in some of those tiers, and that's a daunting task to adequately and satisfactorily classify them. That's going to make everybody happy, or is based on everyone's opinions, because there are more opinions than there are people playing this game. If you look in the gallery, I mean, there are 10 factions with nearly 20 heroes each. I mean, that's almost 200 heroes in this game, right? And to rank them all in one specific order is kind of ridiculous, because say you judge Margarita based on her ability to heal. You'd say she's terrible. The same way you may judge Liz as a carry. You'd say she's terrible. It's not even just apples to oranges, it's an entire fruit salad, and everybody has a different taste in fruit, right? Now, that's just the opinion and the variance in what they do, let alone when you pair them together, different combinations, right? The amalgamations of those heroes on your team can completely change that. Further changed by what you pull in your summons will be vastly different from what I pull and from what the next guy pulls, right? There are so many variables in here that if you just pick one of these, base your entire account upon that, you're going to lose the essence of what could make your account so great. So when I'm looking at my heroes to determine what's good and what's bad, even if it's somebody I've never heard of or somebody that somebody else said made me rank lower, even if I eventually feed them, I will have read all of their skills, right? Just to try to learn and see what it's about. Let's look at Longbeard, for example, right? Off the cuff, you're like, nobody talks about Longbeard, right? Well, do you know what he does? You should before you judge him. So 140 attack damage to a single enemy restores HP. So he's going to attack and give himself some health. As he loses more, he deals more damage, up to 50%. You can skill it up, okay? Not bad. Longbeard gains 20% attack and then deals 200% attack damage to a single enemy. This skill inflicts freeze on the target for 1 turn if it lands a crit. Skill does more damage as Longbeard loses HP up to 50%. So this guy can freeze. That's not a very common skill in this game, right? Longbeard gains more leech, restores HP of himself when he lands a crit, but he can only trigger it once per turn. And then on his A4, he does 3 stages of this attack damage to all the enemies, ignoring defense, right, if they lands a crit. So this guy, he restores his health, he can freeze, all based around if he crits. So that all sounds really cool. None of that sounds like it's bad. Many will start saying, oh, well, that's garbage because this other thing is better. Well, because better things exist doesn't mean good things do not, right? You might have a synergy in your mind where this will work with a great other champion. Terrace here is another hero. I'm not ranking these or telling you should use them, but read their skills, right? She can lower effect resist, right? Which may help other people land their dots, right? She can give a layer of burn for 2 turns. Well, there are some heroes, legendary heroes, that are primarily burn, but if the target's already under burn, then they land HP burn instead, right? So if somebody else had burn on them, that allows this guy to then apply HP burning, right? There are different ways things work together. It's not all that complicated, but then you come back to her and she has a chance to inflict a layer of burn on this skill, but if it detonates burn, it reduces their defense, right? So then you obviously can apply burns and then detonate them and then lower the defense to do even more damage. So the synergies and the combinations here, you're not even considering just because some tier list told you that they were lower. And not that that tier list was wrong, but you're basing their ability to work with other heroes and their viability just because they rank lower than others. And you get heroes like Sedora, who have an A2, which increase all allies' turn meters by 50% and cleanse their attributes. Well, that's one of the functions that Space does, and also one of the functions that Liz does, right? Just because they're heroes nobody really talks about a lot, and you see their picture down lower on a list, you might not even consider this hero, when in fact, it could really help out your team. You're just like, oh no, this is trash. And then you got, when you pair things together, right, everybody knows that things are better in combination, even if they're good alone, right? Like peanut butter is good, chocolate's good, peanut butter and chocolate together is great. Macaroni's good, cheese is good, mac and cheese is great, right? But then there are other things, right, which aren't even that good by themselves, but are like Mentos and Diet Coke, right? They're both all right, but you put them together and it's, right, it's exploding, it's going to blow up. Nobody really talks about Ilat, right? So she does defense-based damage, right? But then she can increase all allies' defense by 60% and give them resistance to debuffs. I don't know of many heroes that can increase other heroes' defense, but I know of several heroes that are defense-based. So if you wanted to come up with a defense-based team, well, all of a sudden, Ilat becomes one of the top things you're looking at, right? And then, if you look at there, she's got a lot more damage reflect. More damage reflect here on this skill. In your emblems, you can actually get damage reflect on a talent. Maybe you in your mind have an idea for what you've got, and you've pulled defense-based heroes more often than not. In that case, Ilat is huge for you. Prime example, Hardak right there. People talk about Hardak because he does great AoE damage. He's defense-based damage. He won't take crit from enemies whose defense is lower than his own. Well, if he's put with Ilat, there's a good chance that their defense is going to be lower than his. And then he deals 100% diff damage to all enemies. You see, you can really stack him defense there. Go crazy with it. All of a sudden, Hardak, who's pretty good, put with a legendary who is kind of but it becomes way more useful, right? And then, on top of all that, there's the difference that exclusivity makes, the exclusive weapons, right? For example, double the effect of Azure Blessing if allies under attack up status. Well, Azure Blessing is 14% more effect hit. If it's skilled up, that's going to be 20%. So, if you already have a hero like Eden increasing your team's attack by 20%, this guy then, if he has his exclusive weapon 3, Azure Blessing will now give them 40% effect hit. See, these things can work together and totally change, so their value goes up depending on what you pulled, right? Eden is one of my favorites. Off the cuff, she's really good. She can reduce the enemy's attack, she increases all her allies' attack, and she increases herself speed and heal a little bit. Well, if you pull 2 or 3 copies of Eden, at an exclusive level 3, she increases all allies' speed by 20% with recovery energy, which is the skill where she heals. So she's throwing out a heal and a speed boost all in one move. So when you're looking at your account and what you've pulled and you say, is it good? Is this good? Should I use this? Should I reroll? Tier list now! There's no way that that tier list can analyze your account. It's still going to require you to get in there, see what you've pulled, what duplicates do you have, read their skills, see if you were to invest in them and get their exclusive weapons, because you may have pulled things that are in combination really good together, but instead you're going to feed them all trying to hold out for one thing that somebody told you was the top tier when you could have been growing your account. Not to mention finding those combinations that people haven't found yet. Because remember, the game is still young. Nobody has leveled every hero, right? This is not a knock to tier lists whatsoever. I appreciate the effort in the tier lists. All this is saying is that in order to have a great account, right, more so than I just pulled the heroes at the top of a tier list, gotta be, did I get in there? Did I read my skills? Did I really think about how are these heroes working together and what can they do? In addition to what your luck says about what you pull, right? We could go on for hours and days about this. At the end of the day, go to the tier lists, get an idea, then come back to your roster and your summons, see what you've got and the potential that they have. Don't discount any hero's potential just because you weren't happy with how they placed in a tier list. That's all. Alright guys, I'm J-Town. I will see you in game.
Infinite Magicraid. Play to slay.